Can Democrats ignore the Senate parliamentarian the way Republicans have? Check it out. Leave your comments, ding the bell, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. The parliamentarian of the Senate, a woman by the name of Elizabeth McDonough, and, I'm not indicting her, as it were, but I frankly know nothing about her. But she's the one who decides how the rules get interpreted, the Senate rules get interpreted. And she has concluded that adding a minimum wage provision to the $1.9 trillion COVID relief bill, this disaster relief bill around COVID, that the Democrats are trying to get into the House and Senate, would make it unusable for it would mean that reconciliation could not be used to pass it. Reconciliation is a process where you can do it once or twice a year in the Senate. It allows you to get around a filibuster, so you don't need 10 Republican votes to pass anything. You can just do it with Democrats. And the thing is, though, that her opinion is not binding. Her opinion is merely an opinion. In fact, when the Republicans were trying to pass legislation by reconciliation, and I've got to look up which bill it was that they were trying to pass specifically, but the parliamentarian ruled against them and said you can't do that by reconciliation, and they fired the parliamentarian. Literally fired the parliamentarian, Mitch McConnell. You're out of here. And put in a new parliamentarian who said, oh, sure, you can do that by reconciliation. So the question now is, are the Democrats going to do what Republicans have done and say, we're going to ignore the parliamentarian, we're going to pass this anyway, because it's really just a kind of kabuki theater thing? Or are the Democrats going to say, we're going to end the filibuster, because without a filibuster, they could pass this legislation also. They wouldn't even have to resort to reconciliation. Or are they going to give in? Now, Nancy Pelosi is saying, we're going to keep the $15 minimum wage in the bill. Keep in mind, blue states around the country, the minimum wage in Michigan, $9.65 an hour. The minimum wage in Vermont, $10.50 an hour. The minimum wage in New York, $11.80 an hour. Rhode Island, $10.50. Massachusetts, $12.75. Connecticut, $12. Maryland, $11. That's blue states. California, $13. Washington State, $13. Here in Oregon, it's $12 an hour. Those are the state minimum wages. Red states, and Hawaii is $10.10 an hour. Red states, well, in Alabama, there is no minimum wage law. In Mississippi, there is no minimum wage law, so the minimum wage is $0. In Georgia, it's $5.15 an hour. In Arkansas, it's $6.50 an hour. This is state minimum wage. In Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, $7.25 an hour. North Carolina, South Carolina, $7.25 an hour. So there is a bit of a difference here between red states and blue states. And in addition to the minimum wage, the other thing that you discover is that blue states tend to be prosperous. They are the maker states. And the red states tend to be massively in debt. They are the taker states. For every dollar that Kentucky sends to Washington, D.C., they get back about $3. And for every dollar California sends to Washington, D.C., they get back less than $1. And this is just kind of universal right across the board. So anyhow, the question is, are the Democrats willing to play hardball on this thing? And we don't know the answer. And an awful lot of it is going to be up to Chuck Schumer, who is going to have to decide, particularly if Nancy Pelosi holds her ground and the House does pass a bill, and maybe today, it most likely will be early next week, and the House does pass a bill that has the minimum wage in it, a minimum wage increase, which will lift 27 million people out of poverty over a 5-year period. If she holds to that, then Chuck Schumer has to decide whether, and actually it's Kamala Harris's call, if they're going to ignore the parliamentarian. The vice president has basically one job defined in the Constitution, in addition to being there if the president croaks. But the one job that the vice president has is to be the president of the Senate. And so Kamala Harris, Vice President Harris, has the power to say, I'm going to overrule the parliamentarian, and I'm going to say, as the president of the Senate, that my interpretation of the rules, that this does comport with reconciliation, is the way it's going to be, period. Kamala Harris has that power. And that power has been used in the past, by the way, by both Democrats and Republicans who were leading the Senate. Lyndon Johnson did it back in the day when he was the Senate Majority Leader. That has been used before that way. But will she do it? Or alternatively, will Chuck Schumer say, okay, I am going to bring a resolution to the floor to change the rules of the Senate, to end the Byrd rule, and end reconciliation. Or actually, he doesn't even have to do that. He could simply say, I'm going to bring a motion. I believe that would be the right word. I mean, I'm not a Senate parliamentarian at all. But whatever the correct language is here, basically, we're going to change the rules of the Senate, which are reestablished every 2 years when there's a new Congress. It's the first thing that the Senate votes on. We're going to change the rules of the Senate to say that the filibuster no longer exists. The filibuster was put into place in the late 1830s by John C. Calhoun, the senator from South Carolina, specifically to be used to forbid discussion of the abolition of slavery. That's why the filibuster was put into the Senate rules in the late 1830s. It was used exclusively from the time John C. Calhoun, the father of the Confederacy, put it in the Senate rules until 1865. It was used exclusively to prevent any discussion in the Senate of abolishing slavery. The House had their own version of it. They actually passed a law against discussing the abolition of slavery on the floor of the House, which John Quincy Adams delighted in breaking every single day, that law. But in the Senate, it was the filibuster. And then from 1865 to 1964, for 99 years, the filibuster was used only for one thing, 100% of the time. The filibuster was exclusively used to fight civil rights legislation. From 1865 until 1964. But since the 60s, the filibuster has been used mostly by Republicans to try to block any kind of legislation that might help average working Americans. And I think it's time to say, the filibuster, like the Confederacy, should go. Either we believe in democracy or we don't. And this should be the speech that Chuck Schumer gives when he announces this, if he has any kind of spine. Every single person in this body, in this Senate, if they won their election by one single vote, would take their seat in the Senate. They wouldn't sit back and say, well, I do need some bipartisan, I do need, more than just one vote to win an election. I need, at least, 10,000 extra votes to win an election. None of them, not a single senator would be saying that. So why are they saying if you want to pass a piece of legislation, you can't pass it with a one-vote majority? Either we believe in democracy or we don't. Why do you have to have a one-vote majority plus 10 Republicans? What kind of crazy is that? Oh, yeah, that's right. It's John C. Calhoun crazy. It's white supremacist crazy. It's Confederate crazy. It's going to be an interesting few days here as Chuck Schumer decides what, and Kamala Harris, Vice President Harris, decide what they're going to do.